Namaste.
Namaste.
I am your host Deepika. Today's episode focuses on a landmark project, the Zojila Tunnel, a tunnel that aims to ensure all weather connectivity across a critical Himalayan corridor. Beyond its immediate function, the project raises important questions about engineering innovations, financing model, environmental stewardship, and national security planning. To explore these dimensions in depth, we are joined by Dr. Naresh Bana, an authority of infrastructure development in challenging terrains. Dr. Bana's insights allow us to examine this project not merely as a construction effort, but as a case study in integrated policy and planning. Thank you so much, Dr. Bana, for being with us. Let us begin with the questions now. Dr. Bana, what exactly is the Zojila Tunnel project and why is it so important for India?
Thank you, Deepika ji. To understand Zojila Tunnel, imagine a road that decides the fate of an entire region every winter. High in Himalayas, the Zojila Pass is the only land bridge between the Kashmir Valley and Ladakh region. For millennia and centuries, this pass has been both a gateway and a barrier. When winter arrives, snowstorms and avalanches shut it down, sometimes for 6 months at a time, leaving Ladakh isolated from rest of the India. The Zojila Tunnel is India's answer to this geography. It's a 13-kilometer plus long highway tunnel being built deep under the Himalayas, linking Sonamarg in Kashmir to Dras and Kargil in Ladakh. When it opens, vehicles will no longer climb over the treacherous pass. They will simply pass quietly through the mountain, protected from snow, wind, and avalanches. What does that change? It changes almost everything. A journey that once took hours over dangerous roads will take minutes through the tunnel. More importantly, Ladakh will no longer live by the calendar of winter closures. Food, fuel, medicine, tourists, traders, and emergency services will be able to move all the year around. But this tunnel is not just about civilian life, it's also about national security. We have not forgotten the Kargil intrusions and the war thereafter. Ladakh lies on India's sensitive Himalayan frontier. During past crises, the closure of Zojila meant that military convoys had to wait or detour hundreds of kilometers to reach Ladakh. With the tunnel in place, India gains permanent, reliable access to one of its most strategic regions. The economic impact will be just as profound. The tourism will no longer be seasonal. Local farmers and artisans will reach markets reliably. Businesses will invest because transport risk will disappear. What was once a remote outpost becomes a connected economic zone. In a deeper sense, the Zojila Tunnel is also about integration. For decades, Ladakhis have lived with physical isolation that shaped their lives, opportunities, and access to the rest of country. This tunnel brings the Himalayas closer socially, economically, and emotionally. So when India drills through the Zojila mountain, it's not just about carving rock. It's carving out a future where Ladakh is never cut off again from Kashmir or from rest of the world.
Thank you, sir. That really explains why Zojila Tunnel is far more than a connectivity project. It's a strategic backbone for the region and the country. Moving ahead, sir, when did the Zojila Tunnel ideal start? Who tendered it first? How was the current builder chosen and were there disputes or complexities?
Very interesting. In a democratic country like ours, where mega projects are bid and built through the rules and the policies, the story of Zojila Tunnel begins not in a boardroom, but in the imagination of engineers and strategists who saw that the harsh Himalayan winters were isolating an entire region of India. The dream of a year round road link between the Kashmir Valley and Ladakh first took shape in the early 2000s in the aftermath of Kargil war, with initial planning and inputs drawn up by the Border Roads Organization. In 2005, and that is well before most of the people had heard about anything like Zojila Tunnel. However, it took nearly a decade that for that idea to translate into official policy and the project. Being a mega project of high economic value, the Union Cabinet gave formal approval to the project in 2013, setting the stage for competitive bidding thereafter. By 2017, the government initiated bids and ILNFS Transportation Network Limited, already known for major tunnel projects, emerged as the lowest bidder and won the contract. In May 2018, Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid the foundation stone, marking a symbolic start to the construction. But there was a major twist. In 2019, ILNFS ran into a financial crisis and eventually collapsed under debt, leaving the project in limbo. The government had to cancel the initial contract and rebid the work, a setback that delayed construction timelines. In August 2020, a fresh tender by the National Highway Infrastructure Development Corporation brought a new protagonist into the story, Megha Engineering and Infrastructure Limited, MEIL. And having emerged the lowest bidder, by October 2020, the first ceremonial blasting marked the real start of sustained tunneling work. From the outset, the Zojila Tunnel has faced monumental engineering challenges. Extreme cold, avalanche prone slopes, complex Himalayan geology, and dangerous working conditions that repeatedly halted progress. These natural obstacles, more than bureaucratic disputes, have defined the project's pace and phase. Yet, despite these headwinds, contractor reshuffles, technical redesigns, and harsh climates, the tunnel stands today as one of India's most significant engineering undertakings, pushing relentlessly towards a future where Ladakh is no longer cut off by the winter.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for walking us through that journey. It shows how complex decisions making can be in project of this scale. Moving ahead, sir, let's map it out. From Srinagar in the west to Dras, Kargil in the east. What is the design of the Zozila Tunnel project? What are its major parts and how much of it is done?
That's very interesting and very pertinent. See, you picture a strategic corridor being carved out through the mighty Himalayas, a road that doesn't just connect places on a map but stitches together seasons, opportunities, and security. The journey from Srinagar side in the west begins with the Jedmore Tunnel, which is about 69 kilometers from Srinagar. This 6.5-kilometer long tunnel is located at Gagangir, short of Sonamarg, and bypasses a treacherous, avalanche prone mountain stretch that used to choke traffic every winter. Now it is completed and it was inaugurated in January 2025. This Jedmore tunnel gives all weather access to the Sonamarg town, which is further 19 km towards east after you exit Jedmore tunnel. Now, east of this, in the heart of Himalayas, is the Zojila Tunnel, a 14.15 kilometer, now about 13 kilometer, bi-directional, meaning it is a single tube, two-lane road tunnel drilled beneath the Zojila Pass, the existing Zojila Pass. It will replace the old high-altitude road on the pass that for decades shut Ladakh off from the rest of the country for nearly 6 months. But it's not just one tunnel. The scheme includes roughly 18.6 kilometers of approach road on either side, that's towards Srinagar as well as towards Dras Kargil, which has protective avalanche galleries, bridges over streams and river crossings, and other safety structures like snow galleries and deflector walls that make it safe throughout the year. It means as soon as you get out of Zedmore Tunnel, you will ride on the Zozila approach road having avalanche protection structures for 18 kilometers before entering tunnel proper. And after you get out of the tunnel, again towards Kargil, you will have 18 to 20 kilometers of protective structures keeping you safe throughout the year while moving towards Ladakh. In terms of progress, Zojila Tunnel's excavation is now well advanced. About 12 kilometers out of the 13 plus kilometers is done, and the handshake, which is formal connecting of the two sides, is anticipated in current year, and 2028 is being expected to be the completion year of the tunnel. And once these pieces are stitched together, a finished Jedmore tunnel and Zojila tunnel and the final approach roads, the old winter isolation of Ladakh will become a chapter in history.
That was very helpful. It gives our viewers a clear picture of how this massive project is laid out and progressing on the ground. So let's talk money. When the Jojala tunnel was first planned, what was its expected to cost? How much is it costing now? And what might the final price tag be once it's inaugurated?
Okay, so that's a very pertinent question, and everything has a underlying financial implication, and so the mega projects also. This tunnel has grown not just in ambition but also in budget figures. And the story of its cost is a story of transforming vision into reality in some of the toughest terrains on earth. When the Indian government first approved the project back in 2013-14, the overall capital cost, including the tunnel, its parallel egress lane, land acquisition, and early works, were officially put at about 6,800 crores. And that time it was about $1 billion plus. This included construction plus the costs associated with resettlement, pre-construction activities, and a few years of operation and maintenance. At the time, commentators and some bid documents even placed versions of the project near a 10,000 crore range under certain bidding models. Now, as the project shifted into execution, with mega engineering and infrastructure taking over the project in 2020, the new design configurations were also adopted. The current official budget has been revised multiple times. The government replies to the parliament in 2025 put the approved construction cost at roughly same number, that is 6,800 crores for the core Zojila Tunnel and associated works. Now there may be that some due to some design improvement, certain features have been left out because it is difficult to appreciate that in 10 years the cost has not gone up. In my view, compromising on safety structures like egress tunnel may not be right. If financing is an issue, the same may be phased to a later date but should not be shelved altogether. Looking ahead, as the tunnel nears completion towards its revised 2028 opening, experts suggest the final cost, once all approach roads, safety systems, everything, guarantees and inflations are factored in, could well settle around 8,500 crore range. This is a far cry from early simplistic estimates, but it reflects the challenge of building an all-weather strategic lifeline through the Himalayas. And it is just a small price which appears justified given the lives, economy, and national security it will transform.
That breakdown puts the numbers into perspective and shows how ambition, reality, and terrain all influence costs. Moving ahead, sir, the Zojila Tunnel is often called one of India's toughest engineering project. What makes it so difficult in terms of weather, terrain, geology, logistics, and project management clubbed together?
Deepika ji, having been part of the Kashmir railway project in the same region in the years 2006 to 2009, I can well appreciate that Zojila Tunnel is not just being built through a mountain, but it is being built against the Himalayas themselves. Let's start with the weather and climate. The site sits at 12,000 feet above the mean sea level, where winters last more than half the year and the temperature falls below minus 30 degrees Celsius. At this altitude, workers struggle to breathe, machines lose power, and even diesel and concrete behave differently. For several months every year, snowstorms and avalanches make it impossible to reach the site at all. Then there is geography. The tunnel portals are located on steep, narrow valleys with limited space for camps, workshops, or material yards. One landslide or one washed out bridge can shut down the only access road, instantly stopping all construction activities. The geology is even more unforgiving, and we have seen it while the rail tunnel at Banihal was being built. I've been inside many times. The Zojila mountain is part of the young Himalayan range, cracked, unstable, and full of hidden water channels. Engineers encounter zones where solid rock suddenly turns into loose debris or flowing mud. In fact, the water appears to be flowing from all around and continuously requires to be pumped out. In such conditions, a tunnel boring machine simply does not work. This tunneling requires controlled drilling and blasting, and the alignment must hold precise gradients while passing through zones of loose debris, water ingress, and faulted strata. Vertically, the tunnel works across an elevation of nearly 12,000 feet, which demands sophisticated ventilation shafts, exhaust ducts, and cross passages to manage oxygen, smoke, and emergency evacuation. Now, there are three vertical shafts being drilled, and these are approximately 3 kilometers distance to each other. The deepest towards Srinagar is about 500 meters from the top to the tunnel tube, and then is 400 meters, and the third one towards Kargil is 250 meters deep. To ensure this is all to ensure proper ventilation in the tunnel, and these horizontal precision and vertical life support systems would make Zojila one of the world's most technically demanding mountain tunnels, and this will be also the longest road tunnel in Asia. Now consider logistics. Every ton of cement, steel, fuel, explosives, food, and medical supplies hauled up across treacherous mountain roads that themselves are often closed. Even spare parts for the machines take days or weeks to arrive. Finally, there is management and equipment. Crews have to be rotated frequently because of altitude sickness. Machinery must be winterized, insulated, and maintained in freezing temperatures. Ventilation systems must keep thousands of meters of tunnel safe for workers, even while blasting is happening. So, the Zojila Tunnel is not delayed because it is mismanaged, or otherwise, it is slow because it is being carved through one of the most hostile construction environment on earth. Every kilometer completed is an engineering victory over nature itself.
That insight makes it clear why Zojila Tunnel stands apart as one of India's most demanding engineering challenges. Sir, looking at the long journey of the Zojila Tunnel, its planning, financing, construction, and future, what lessons should our viewers take away from such a strategic mega project?
Very good question. You see, the Zojila Tunnel offers a powerful lesson about how nations build their future, not through quick wins, but through long, patient commitment. The first lesson is about vision. When the idea was first conceived almost 2 decades ago, Ladakh was still being cut off from rest of the India every winter. The planners who proposed this tunnel were thinking not about the next election cycle, but about the next generation. Strategic infrastructure demands exactly that: the courage to invest today for benefits that may be fully realized years or decades later. The second lesson is about financing reality. Projects in extreme terrain will almost always cost more and take longer than expected. Zojila teaches us that rigid budgeting is less important than financial resilience. The ability of the state to absorb shocks, redesigns, and renegotiated contracts and keep funding alive when private contractor collapses or inflation starts biting. The third lesson is about engineering humility. The Himalayas do not follow project schedules. Geology, weather, and altitude rewrite plans constantly. What matters is not pretending everything is predictable, but facing the reality and building systems that allow engineers to adopt and adapt safely when the mountains surprise them. The fourth lesson is about national priorities. Jojila is not being built because it makes quick profits. It's being built because it ensures security, unity, and equal opportunity for a remote region. Not all infrastructure should be judged by a toll revenue. Some should be judged by strategic and social returns. And finally, Jojila teaches us that progress is often invisible until it completes. For years, people see delays, costs, and controversy. But one day, vehicles will pass through that mountain in winter, and an entire region will no longer be isolated. That is when the true value of such mega projects becomes clear. So, the real lesson is nation building is not a sprint, it's a tunnel through hard rock, digging 1 meter at a time. Jai Hind.
That's a powerful takeaway. Lessons from Zozila will clearly shape how India approaches future mega infrastructure projects. Dr. Bana, thank you for sharing such rigorous and comprehensive insights. Today's discussion highlights that infrastructure projects on this magnitude require far more than technical expertise than demand institutional coordination, financial discipline, environmental sensitivity, and long term strategic clarity. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Do share it and stay connected for more conversations and explore the idea shaping India tomorrow. I'm Deepika Upadhyay signing off. Namaste.
Namaste.